There is a plant floating on ponds across the world right now that holds a Guinness World Record. It doubles its entire body mass in 29 hours. It produces 7 times more protein per acre than soybeans. It contains vitamin B12, the only plant on Earth known to produce it. NASA is spending millions to grow it for astronauts traveling to Mars. Yet most people have never heard its name. They call it pond scum. They spray herbicides to kill it. And if you saw it growing in a ditch behind your house, you would probably walk right past it. This is duckweed. And what happened to this plant reveals exactly what happens when a survival food cannot be owned, patented, or sold for profit. Welcome to Secrets Beneath Nature. If stories like this matter to you, subscribe and hit the bell. Drop a comment telling me if you have ever seen this plant growing near you. Every interaction helps more people discover what has been hidden in plain sight. Picture a vegetable market in Chiang Mai, Thailand. Vendors sit behind baskets filled with tiny green specks that look like floating seeds. Locals call it kai nam, water eggs. They have been eating it for centuries. Grandmothers in Myanmar stir it into curries. Street vendors in Laos fold it into omelets. Families in Cambodia toss it raw into spicy soups and salads. For over 1,000 years, this plant has fed millions of people across Southeast Asia. It was never exotic, never a novelty, just food. Travel further back in time to ancient China. Traditional healers knew this plant as Fuping. They prescribed it for fevers because of its cooling properties. They used it to treat measles, skin eruptions, and the early stages of colds. When patients needed to sweat out illness, Fuping was the remedy. A medicine that required no money and no prescription, just a walk to the nearest pond. In 2017, researchers from Germany and India published a study that changed everything. They analyzed the nutritional composition of several duckweed species and found something remarkable. The amino acid profile meets every standard set by the World Health Organization for human nutrition. Protein content ranges from 20 to 51% of dry weight, depending on the species. That is higher than most beans, higher than most grains, and comparable to meat. But here is what made scientists pause. Duckweed contains all 9 essential amino acids. A complete protein, like eggs, like beef, but from a plant smaller than your fingernail. Now picture a laboratory at Ben Gurion University in Israel. Researchers are measuring something that should not exist: vitamin B12 inside a plant. Every nutritionist will tell you that vitamin B12 only comes from animal sources. Vegans must take supplements. It is biological law, except duckweed breaks that law. In 2020, scientists published their findings in a peer-reviewed journal. A cultivated strain called Mankai contains 3.23 micrograms of bioactive vitamin B, 12 per 100 grams of dry weight. Not inactive analogs, not pseudovitamins. Real bioavailable vitamin B12 that the human body can absorb. They ran an 18-month human trial with nearly 300 participants. The group consuming Mankai daily saw their serum vitamin B12 levels increased by 15.4%, higher than the control group and higher than the standard Mediterranean diet group. The results were so compelling that the Harvard School of Public Health started serving Mankai smoothies in their cafeteria. Students at one of the world's most prestigious universities are now drinking pond plants for breakfast. Let me show you what this plant can actually do. Scientists measure growth using something called relative growth rate. Most crops are considered fast if they double their biomass in a few weeks. Wolffia microscopica, one species of duckweed, holds the Guinness World Record for fastest plant growth. Under optimal conditions, it doubles in 29.3 hours. Some strains can double in just 16 hours. That means you could start with a handful of duckweed on Monday morning and have enough to fill a bathtub by Friday. Translate that to agriculture and the numbers become staggering. Duckweed can produce 2,080 kilograms of protein per hectare per year. Soybeans produce 303 kilograms. Corn produces 179 kilograms. Nuts produce 229 kilograms. Duckweed is not slightly better. It is 7 times more productive than the crop we built an entire industry around. Imagine a soybean field stretching to the horizon in Iowa. Now imagine producing 7 times more protein from the same footprint using nothing but shallow pools of water, sunlight, and nutrients. No tractors, no tilling, no pesticides, no crop rotation. But the story gets stranger. Picture a sewage treatment plant, concrete tanks filled with human waste. The smell alone keeps people away. Traditional treatment requires expensive infrastructure, chemical additives, and constant energy input. Now picture the same facility with a green carpet floating on top, duckweed thriving on what we flush down our toilets. Researchers in China tested duckweed on municipal wastewater and measured the results after 16 days. Nitrogen removal reached 99.1%. Phosphorus removal reached 90.8%. The water quality improved to grade 2 under Chinese national standards. That is clean enough for drinking water sources. In another study, duckweed reduced fecal coliform bacteria by 96%. It removed organic pollutants, heavy metals, and pharmaceutical residues. Think about what this means. You feed sewage to duckweed. The duckweed cleans the water. You harvest the duckweed as protein-rich food. The cycle repeats infinitely. One system that simultaneously solves 2 of humanity's greatest challenges: water pollution and food scarcity. And the output is not waste. It is nutrition. So why have you never heard of this? Why is duckweed not taught in schools? Why does it not appear on grocery store shelves between the spinach and the kale? The answer is simpler than you think. Duckweed cannot be controlled. Walk into any industrial farming operation and you will see crops that obey rules. They ripen on schedule. They are harvested by machine. They ship without bruising. They sit in warehouses for months. They look identical under fluorescent supermarket lights. Industrial agriculture demands uniformity because uniformity creates profit. Duckweed refuses every single requirement. It grows continuously. It cannot be harvested by standard equipment. It spoils faster than lettuce. It looks different depending on growing conditions. It does not fit on a conveyor belt. But here is the real problem. Duckweed cannot be patented in its natural form. It spreads vegetatively without seeds. You cannot sell someone duckweed seeds because duckweed does not need seeds. Give someone a handful of plants and they can grow their own supply forever. It requires no pesticides when grown on nutrient-rich water. It requires no fertilizer when that water contains nitrogen and phosphorus. It requires no permission. What cannot be owned cannot be sold. What cannot be sold cannot generate profit. What cannot generate profit does not receive research funding, regulatory approval, or shelf space. Consider the regulatory barriers. In the European Union, duckweed is classified as a novel food. This means it requires pre-market authorization before it can be sold for human consumption. The European Food Safety Authority evaluates applications. It approved Wolfia globosa and Wolfia arisa, the species traditionally eaten in Thailand, but it rejected Lemna minor and Lemna gibba, the most common species in Europe and North America. The application is pending resubmission. A plant that billions of people have eaten safely for centuries must prove it is safe for Europeans. The regulatory system was designed for industrial products, not for traditional foods that grow wild in every pond on the continent. In the United States, the Food and Drug Administration uses a different pathway. Some duckweed species received generally recognized as safe status in 2018. Companies can sell duckweed powder as an ingredient. But try finding it in your local supermarket. Try finding it outside specialty health food stores or online retailers. The perception problem runs deeper than regulation. In the Western world, duckweed is not seen as food. It is seen as a nuisance, pond scum, a sign of neglected water, something to eliminate, not cultivate. Hardware stores sell products specifically designed to kill duckweed. Landscaping companies advertise duckweed removal services. The same framing was applied to dandelions, white clover, and dozens of other plants that once sustained human populations through famine. Companies tried to break through. In Florida, a company called Parabel built a $10 million facility to produce duckweed protein under the brand name Lentane. They developed extraction methods, food applications, and distribution partnerships. In Israel, a company called Hinoman created the Mankai brand that supplied Harvard cafeteria. They cultivated high-protein strains and conducted clinical trials proving health benefits. Both companies faced the same obstacles. Distribution networks built for industrial crops could not accommodate a product that grows in water and spoils quickly. Retail chains demanded consistency that aquatic farming struggled to provide. Consumer education required marketing budgets that startups could not sustain. Mankai ceased U.S. operations in 2022. The system rejected what it could not control. Now consider the irony. Picture the Translational Research Institute for Space Health, a NASA-funded organization dedicated to keeping astronauts healthy during long-duration missions. They contacted Professor Barbara Demig-Adams at the University of Colorado Boulder with a specific request: find an edible plant for Mars. The requirements were strict. The plant must grow in tight quarters. It must use minimal resources. It must provide maximum nutrition. It must produce antioxidants that fight radiation damage. Professor Demig-Adams chose duckweed. Her team discovered that duckweed produces more zeaxanthin than any other fast-growing plant. Zeaxanthin fights the chronic inflammation caused by space radiation. It protects against eye disease, a common problem for astronauts, and duckweed produces it under low-intensity light, which means lower energy costs for spacecraft. NASA selected duckweed for the LEAF mission on Artemis 3. Astronauts will grow it on the lunar surface as part of a bioregenerative life support experiment. Space Lab Technologies is developing a microgravity cultivation system called LilyPond. Blue Origin has already conducted suborbital tests. Think about this carefully. NASA considers duckweed essential for human survival in space. Scientists at the world's most advanced space agency believe this plant will help humans colonize other planets. Yet here on Earth, we spray herbicides to kill it. Astronauts will eat duckweed salads on Mars, while Americans are taught that the same plant is worthless pond scum. The disconnect is not accidental. It is manufactured. But something is changing. At Rutgers University in New Jersey, Professor Eric Lamb is developing vertical farming systems for duckweed. His prototype produces 20 grams of dried biomass per square meter per day. Scaled up, that equals 1.4 million pounds per hectare annually, 50 times more than corn from the same footprint. His vision is a mobile 8-tray system that fits in 1 square meter of basement space. Homeowners could skim duckweed from water trays, rinse it, and store it in their refrigerator for up to 3 months without preservatives. A perpetual protein source that costs almost nothing after initial setup. Across Asia, the traditional knowledge never disappeared. Thai grandmothers still teach their grandchildren how to prepare kai nam. Recipe websites now feature duckweed omelets alongside pad thai and green curry. The Holistic Chef Academy in Phuket develops modern dishes showcasing this ancient ingredient. What was once considered food for the poor is becoming a symbol of sustainable luxury. In your own backyard, the opportunity already exists. Duckweed grows in any container of still water, a plastic tub, a fish tank, a repurposed bathtub. It requires no soil, no complicated equipment, no expertise. Add nutrients from fish waste, composted material, or even diluted urine. Harvest every 2 to 3 days. Add the fresh plants to smoothies, salads, stir-fries, or soups. The taste is mild. Some describe it as slightly nutty. Others compare it to cabbage or spinach. The barrier is not toxicity. Research confirms safety for human consumption when grown in clean conditions. The barrier is not taste. Millions of people already enjoy it. The barrier is not difficulty. It practically grows itself. The barrier is programming. 3 generations taught to see food as filth, survival as nuisance, freedom as disorder. Look at what duckweed actually represents. 7 times more protein than soybeans from the same land. The only plant source of vitamin B12. A water purification system that produces food instead of consuming energy. NASA's choice for feeding humans on Mars. An agricultural system that cannot be monopolized, patented, or controlled. Now ask yourself why you never learned about this in school. Ask yourself why no corporation advertises duckweed products during the Super Bowl. Ask yourself why the plant that could solve world hunger floats unnamed in ponds behind shopping malls and highway rest stops. The answer has never been about nutrition, safety, or practicality. The answer has always been about profit. What cannot be owned cannot be sold. What cannot be sold must be erased from memory, but erasure is not permanent. This survives in Thai villages in Chinese medicine texts and NASA research papers. The plant survives in every pond, every ditch, every neglected water feature on every continent except Antarctica. They buried it under layers of manufactured disgust and regulatory complexity. They called it worthless so you would not ask questions. They made it invisible so you would not see the solution floating right in front of you. The question is whether you still believe them. If this video opened something for you, subscribe to Secrets Beneath Nature and hit the bell. Every like and every share breaks the programming that keeps survival food hidden. The next video goes live soon.